Hello and welcome. Welcome to this program. So the program is dubbed Web Design Made Easy. So I'm going to use the simplest terms possible to explain uh, to explain the concepts of web design in this program. Okay. So let us start. Before we proceed to defining what web design is, we first of all need to know what a website is. Now, simply put, a website is a collection of web pages under one domain. For example, let us look at the apple.com. Okay. Now, the apple.com domain, that is the domain, as in a domain is just the name of the website. So, a website is a collection of different web pages under one domain. Like the store, Mac, iPad, these are all web pages, but they so together, put together under one domain, which is the apple.com, then they together form a website. So if somebody asks, you just tell them that a website is a collection of web pages under one domain, and the domain is a special name that we give a website. Okay. Now let us move on. Let us move on to the next bit. Now, what is web design? Now, web design is the process of creating the visual structure of a website. Now, the visual structure is anything that you see on a website, like this one. Now we have the Apple website. So everything that you see, from the text to the images to the animations to the buttons, all those together make up the visual structure of this website. Now, that process of creating such visual structure is what we refer to as web design. Okay, so it is as simple as that. So, web design is the process of creating the visual structure of a website. That is it. So, a web designer does that work. Okay. Now we've understood what web design is. Let us talk about the two concepts, the most crucial and the most important concepts in web design: the user experience (UX) and the user interface, which is the UI. So before you sit down as a web designer to design any kind of website, you need to consider UI and UX. Okay, so UI basically is just the interface of a website. Now, the interface of a website is made up of the points of interactivity, points of interaction. So, like the buttons and forms, like that drop down right there, that is a point of interaction. Now, that makes up so such points of interaction make up the user interface. Okay, like buttons, what else? Forms, anything that you can interact with on a website. That is what we call user interface. Okay. Now, on the other side, we have user experience. Now, user experience, simply put, is the ease of use of your website. How easy is it to access information in your website? How easy is it to read through your website? And such kind of things. If somebody came to your website looking for information, how fast are they going to get such information? So, like things like the search bar, the scroll bar, those fall under user experience. Okay, how somebody feels when they interact with your website. So, as a web designer, you need to consider those two: user experience and user interface. We shall look into detail. Uh, we shall look into detail of the two in later stages. Now, moving on, in the 90s, before content management systems were introduced, in the 90s probably, now people used to sit down and manually code. So whoever coded this, let's say it was in the 90s, then they probably sat down and coded this manually. It took them hours and hours to come up with such a structure. Okay, but they did. So the programming languages that they used back before content management systems were introduced were HTML, Now HTML in full is hypertext markup language. Then CSS, cascading style sheets. Then JavaScript was also one of the programming languages used in the 90s manually to sit down and create websites. So HTML was responsible of creating a website structure, like for example, sections like this. This is the first section. This is another section. This box here, that is another section. So whoever did that in HTML. Okay. Then there's another the other programming language which we call cascading style sheets, which was responsible for aesthetics, some of the looks of a website. Now the scrolling effect, like animations, like okay, let me show you an example like that one over there. So whoever did that did it in CSS. You see, so that is the job of CSS. That kind of animation right there. Now, okay. Now moving on, JavaScript now is responsible for points of interaction. Now, points of interaction, these are like forms, buttons, drop downs like this one over here. So JavaScript was responsible for creating such kind of points of interactions in a website. Okay, now moving on. So thanks to technology, in the year around 2000, 2003, content management systems were introduced. Okay, now the first content management system was WordPress. Now, what is a content management system? A content management system is a software, an application that allows you to create websites without necessarily knowing how to code. Yeah, so it is that simple. You don't have to know how to code, but you can use templates, you can use plugins, you can use themes, and other kind of media to create websites. So content management systems, that is basically how you define them. They just give you the ability to create a website without necessarily knowing how to code. Okay. Now there are different examples of content management system, but we've seen that WordPress was the first one, and it was adapted very vastly and also quickly. Okay, so like today we have over 40% of websites on the internet today use WordPress, or they were created in WordPress. So that shows you the power and how powerful WordPress is in terms of creating websites. So WordPress is the most popular content management system out there, with over 40% of the websites on the internet today having been made in WordPress. Okay, so kuna zingine, there are different. There are many. So like Shopify, Squarespace, Wix, Joomla, Drupal, and the list is endless. There are very many out there. But WordPress is the most popular one and the most adapted one. So that is what we are going to use in this course to learn web design. Okay, now we have a simple assignment here. Find out what domain names are, and also find out what web hosting is. Now, to better understand what domain names are, let me use this example. Let me go back. Remember earlier I said I talked about domains. Now a domain name is a unique name that you assign your website. Okay, so a unique name, there cannot be any other name like that one. So like the apple.com, there is only one apple.com in the world. There can't be any other. Maybe amazon.com, what else? Tesla.com, Amazon.com, whatever, Safaricom.com, if they have a .com website. So there cannot be two domains that look similar. So a domain name is simply a unique name for your website, and it always has a suffix. Now the suffix is the last combination of letters, like the .com. In Kenya, we have the .co.ke and many more. .xyz, .africa, .something. So a domain name, simply put, it's a unique name for a website. Okay, now going back to our notes. So web hosting, you see, a website like this one is actually made up of files, and these files are stored somewhere on the internet. Now, to better understand what I'm saying, let us take an example. Okay, let us take a quick look at this structure. Now, this is you on this end. This is you and me using a web browser, either on a phone, a laptop, desktop computer, whatever means you use to access the internet. Okay. Now, on the farthest end, there is a web server. Now, this web server is what we call the storage for our website files. So, what a web server does is keep and store the files of our website, so that when you come to your computer web browser and search for a domain name like apple.com, so it sends a request to the server that I need this kind of information. So it sends back, and the server sends it back to your web browser, so that you can be able uh, to view those files, but in a more organized manner. So in text, in images, in animation, but behind the scenes, these are files. These are just files stored remotely, as in remotely away from your computer, your phone, your tablet, whatever. So they are stored remotely on a server. Now this server is called web host. Okay, so this server is what we refer to as a web host. Now, what a web host does is offer services. Now, these services are called web hosting services. Okay, so if you when you create a website, the files are stored remotely on a server, so that when you need the files, you can quickly go to your web browser and send a request to the web server that I need this page. Then it will respond by sending it back to you via the internet, then to your web browser, so that you can view it on your screen as a website. So that is basically how the structure of the World Wide Web works. The story behind how websites work. Okay, so now that we have understood that web hosting and the domain names, let us move on to this practical section. Now, what I wanted you to do is download WordPress. Now, we've talked about WordPress. We've seen that WordPress is the number one content management system out there, with 43% of the internet of the websites on the internet being made in WordPress. So we are going to use WordPress. So download WordPress, and also download localhost XAMPP. Now localhost XAMPP will serve as our web server, but locally, sorry, not remotely, as opposed to the live websites. So what we are going to do is use XAMPP to host our website files on our computer, as opposed to the web server. So it eliminates what XAMPP does is eliminate the need of buying a web host or a web hosting service. So for practice purposes, we are going to use localhost, which is XAMPP. Yeah, XAMPP, by the name XAMPP. So as you can see, it is a local host. Local meaning it is on our computer. The files are being stored on our computer. Localhost. Okay, so that is what I want you to download. And in the next class, we shall look at how to install them. So to download WordPress, simply go to your web browser, type in wordpress.org, then click enter. Yeah, so, okay. Rather, alternatively, just say WordPress. Sorry about that. WordPress download. Yeah. So WordPress download, and you want to click on the first one that appears with the wordpress.org. This is it. This is the one. Then the file that we're downloading is this: download WordPress version 6.72. So download WordPress. Then also go download XAMPP. Okay, XAMPP download, XAMPP download. Download. Yeah, there it is. Download. So the first option is what we are going with. Now here you have to choose the version of XAMPP that is compatible with yours. So I'll assume that all of us are using Windows operating system. So we are going to download the Windows version of XAMPP. If you're using another machine that is not Windows, then you can also get it here. Like the Apple versions are listed here. So download any version of the Mac OS or the Windows version if you're using Windows. Okay. Yeah. Now moving on, so that we can. Yeah, if you download that, once you've downloaded that, then we can move on to installing XAMPP and WordPress on our local on our computers, and immediately we can start creating websites. Okay. So see you in the next one. See you in class. Bye.